Well, today is Veterans Day, and Veterans Day celebrations taking place throughout the Eastern Sierra. Hundreds of people showing their respect to the men and women who served in protecting our great country and our freedoms. Rob Gill was on scene at the Mammoth Lakes event at the Main Street Fire Station.
This was a surprise and a real honor when Rich asked me to address a group of veterans. I was a veteran, but I always thought I was pretty much a veteran with a small V and not a large V. I was one of those guys who loved to hate, who always got the assignments that everyone wanted, no one got. I was in the right time at the right place, and I got a lot out of the experience. We were not a particularly strong military family, but that experience has stayed with me my whole life. The A2 flight jacket I'm wearing replaces the one that my father had from World War II that I wore for years, and now is in the closet, but it's so frail that I couldn't wear it. Plus, I'm sure they size things much smaller. In any case, I'm very honored to be here, and thank you, Rich. The one thing I did some research on the Freedom Isn't Free and the history of that, and I realized what we don't say is freedom isn't free, but the veterans are worth every dollar, and we forget that. Freedom isn't free, and the veterans are worth it, so thank you all very much. Having had a little experience on stage and things like that, I gave a lot of thought to this talk, and I had a script all together until Sunday. And on Sunday, I went down to my locker in Brown Valley, putting together a truckload of stuff to take over to my veteran son in the Bay Area. And I found two leather portfolios that my grandmother had collected at the start of the war, 1941. And I had looked at them, I knew what was in them, I never really read them. I took them home and I said, I should read these because I'll be talking to a group of veterans in a couple of days and I might find something interesting. It was fascinating as I read through the letters from the time my father graduated from college in June of 1941 with a reserve commission in the Army Corps of Engineers, to his going to work for General Electric in Schenectady, New York, and the process of trying to get transferred from the Corps of Engineers to the Army Air Corps, and whether he would have deferments. And I was reading the letters as they marched along. November 7th, November 14th, November 28th, December 2nd. And then you knew what was happening. December 8th, he writes a letter. And I want to quote from that because it becomes really the theme for what I'm going to talk about. December 8th, 1941, Robert D. Phelps. Dear folks, what yesterday was a vague reality, today is an actual fact. We are at war. At war not only with Japan, but with the world. Previous to yesterday, the entire country has been living under the misapprehension that war could have been averted. Today we know that it couldn't, no matter who had been sitting in the presidential chair. Now that it is no longer a myth, all we can do is hope for the best and pray that we have the resources and stamina to see it through till the end of all Hitlers, so that my children and my children's children will not have the same thing to face as we have had. Obviously, I was one of the children, and my two boys that have served were the children's children, and there are still little Hitlers out there, and we're still fighting that battle some 70 plus years later.
All right, thanks for that, and remember, thank a vet. Well, Deb Murphy has filed several stories for Sierra Wave Media, and they are all posted in full on our website, sierrawave.net, including Bishop City staff was looking for a consensus, some direction for the Planning Commission as it wrestles with the sticky issue of cultivation of medicinal marijuana. City Council Mayor Pat Gardner came close to a recap of Monday's lengthy discussion. Gardner said, quote, "We may be in favor of a ban or at least Where growing happens, it's limited, end quote. Now, the council began a process that spans a December meeting of the commission. Cultivation is a land use issue, and 2 more readings of an ordinance, if there is one, to meet the March 1st, 2016 deadline to exert some level of local control over cultivation. Bishop City Attorney Ryan Jones started the discussion with some background. The city of Bishop has an ordinance that bans dispensaries and mobile sales, but not cultivation. Sacramento has 3 bills designed to rein in what Jones called the Wild West that followed the passage of the Compassionate Care Act 10 years ago. The new laws will put the regulation of pot groves in state hands unless cities get their own laws on the books by March. Now, the state agricultural department will regulate pot farms much the same way other agricultural operations are regulated under the new laws. Now, the consensus is that the state is not just setting the framework for medicinal marijuana sales and cultivation, but getting a head start on the strong possibility that marijuana for recreational use will be legalized by initiative on the November 2016 ballot. Now, the whole issue is somewhat clouded by elements that can only be described as weird. First, right now, cultivation is illegal, raising the thorny question, where are the medicinal dispensaries getting their stash? Collectives can grow for its members as nonprofits. Individuals can grow for their own use. At least that's what the 10-year-old laws indicate. Then there's the question raised by Bishop City Council member Joe Pexi. Pot is still considered a dangerous and highly addictive drug and hence illegal by the federal government. Councilmember Karen Schwartz came out on the side of no ban. I don't see the harm of medicinal marijuana, Schwartz said. Who are we to say that you can't if the states say you can? What's the harm? And the Kingston subdivision will return to the Bishop City Council agenda, tentatively set for January 11th. Now, the revised document states, quote, the proposed project could not have a significant effect on the environment with adherence to the mitigation measures listed in the initial study. A mitigated negative declaration will be prepared. Now, the revised draft environmental initial study mitigated negative declaration was sent off to the Governor's Office of Planning and Research and has been posted to the City of Bishop's website. That is under Public Works Environmental Documents. That happened earlier this week. Public comments will be taken through December 14th. Now, the initial study was discussed at council in mid-July with objections raised by potential neighbors to the 15-home subdivision on a 2.75-acre parcel currently occupied by Bishop Nursery on Home Street. Those opposed called the study inadequate, raising issues of impacts to habitat, noise, and traffic. In August, the City of Bishop hired Bill Taylor to work with the department on the study revision. Inyo County Supervisors Matt Kingsley and Jeff Griffiths spent a week in Washington, D.C. and came back with the news that the Yucca Mountain Nuclear Waste Crypt may still be built in Nevada, 17 miles from the Inyo County border over an aquifer that daylights in Death Valley near Tecopa, Shoshone. Now, Nevada Senator Harry Reid has been responsible for sticking a monkey wrench in the project, but Reid won't be running for re-election in 2016, opening the door for proponents of the project to start a full-court press. Attorney Greg James gave an update to the Inyo County Board of Supervisors last March, including the colorful history of the project support from Nye County. Inyo County's concerns focused on exposure to the Amargosa River and aquifers below the site. If completed, the facility will operate for 100 years, at which time titanium drip shields will be installed to protect the waste casts from water corrosion. James told the board there's not enough titanium on Earth to shield those casts. Now, with the temperature of the buried cast nearing 2,000 degrees, the shields will have to be installed by robots with technology not currently available. Well, the final Desert Renewable Energy Conservation Plan was released Tuesday by state and federal officials. Out of the 10 million acres of California's desert across 7 counties, from Inyo to San Diego and Imperial, managed by the Bureau of Land Management, 5.3 million acres will be set aside for conservation, 3.8 million for recreation, while 388,000 acres will be identified as development zones. U.S. Secretary of the Interior Sally Jewell and California Secretary for Natural Resources John Laird released the final environmental impact statement for Phase 1 of the DRECP Tuesday in Washington, D.C. The final included significant changes to the draft EIS. Now, one of those changes identified by the Desert Sun in Indio is the status of the Searles Lake area, and that's on the border of San Bernardino and Inyo counties. The area north of Kramer Junction has to be added as a development zone. Now, this is Phase 1 of the DRECP, studying only public lands. Phase 2 will deal with privately held land. As of Tuesday afternoon, Inyo County Planning Director Josh Hart hadn't had the time to digest the 2,000-plus page document. Again, we thank Deb Murphy for the information, and please see SierraWave.net for the full stories. We'll be back with more news.